Spiritual Vision FM, your platform to all things spiritual. Today we are a few people short, and Reverend Ted Woodruff is out in the field, literally, this week. We were hoping he would be able to join us, but I don't believe that there is Wi-Fi out in the big open spaces where he's at. So he will be back and joining us hopefully next week. And Nick has been busy, so I don't think we're going to be honored with his presence today, but we do have the fabulous Nina Ashby. Hi, Nina. How are you doing?
Good evening, Era, and good evening, everybody in the chat room. Such a pleasure always to join you on this Sunday evening where I am, or night where we are, and daytime wherever else you are in the world. We love, and so excited that this is an international event.
You know, it's true. I mean, through the wonders of technology, you're in England, I'm in Canada, Ted and Nick are both in England too, but it is truly international. And when we consider the viewers are from all over the world as well, it truly expands the globe, but actually kind of makes the communication shrink so that we're all able to communicate with one another. So
can we give a shout out to the chat room to just type in where you're from today, and we're going to call it out in the room?
Great.
I think that would be really fun.
That will be fun. So let's hear from everyone in the chat room and let us know where you're located and where you're viewing us from. And, you know, those that are going to be viewing this broadcast through the archive version of the show, you can actually type into the comments just to let us know where you viewed the archive from. And then we begin to see how far-reaching our energy actually goes. And I'm not saying our energy as in the show, it means everyone's energy. We're all connected, we're all firing up at different times and different places. So let's see how the web and the grid forms itself. So what are you seeing there, Nina?
I'm seeing Carrie says, I'm from Earth, LOL. Well, where on Earth, Carrie? We want to know where on Earth you are. And, they say, wannabe London. Okay, Carrie. Fabulous. Thank you. And Jan says Brenzett in Kent. And Emily says Folkestone in Kent. And Sandra in Folkestone in Kent. And John David Parker is from Hornsey. He's in Hornsey, and that's all we have there. But hello, everybody. Hello. John David, you're down in the southern England now. You're not up north like you were before. So good that you're visiting.
There are a few people from Canada that are in the room too. So, hey, Canada. Thanks.
Hey, Canada. Hey, Canada. Cool. Well, we love that you're here with us today and this evening to join in our discussion on various things. So we're in the beginning of September now, and exciting times, very exciting times. So we're going to talk a bit of astrology. We're going to talk a bit of philosophy. We're going to talk about what we want to talk about and then include you, and you can then join in and bring up what you have to say too, and we look forward to it. John David Parker says Hornsey, East Yorkshire. Sorry, John David Parker. East Yorkshire, hey, big up to East Yorkshire. Thank you.
Yeah, Jan is from Brenzett, Kent.
Yeah, I never heard of that. That's good. Anyway, as I said, exciting times, because today in universal time or Earth time, the planet Venus has gone from being in retrograde motion in Leo to direct. So since July, it's been in Leo, and whenever you have any planet in apparent retrograde motion to Earth, in relationship to Earth, it means it's backtracking. So Venus is the planet of love, friendship, harmony, relationships, and it's also in the negative frame, it can be addiction, self-absorption, selfishness. If you look at the mythology around Venus, the goddess, oh, today is also Goddess Day.
Oh, is it?
It is. It is.
That's why there's only women on the panel today.
Yeah, maybe it. Okay. So today is Goddess Day. Venus is going direct. Venus is the goddess of women, rules women's. It rules women's things. Okay. And in retrograde in Leo, it's been a time when everybody's had to look at their old Venusian type issues, such as relationships, addictions in relationships. And we can talk a little bit about what that means if you want. Selfishness, self-absorption, lack of humility, arrogance, because that's all Leo, negative Leo characteristics. And usually when the planet's in retrograde motion, it brings out the things hidden underneath it, things that you wanted to try and hide, but actually nothing can be hidden. Nothing can really kind of be buried forever. So when the planet goes in retrograde motion, you have to figure out, by having things come to the surface, what is not working for you. And if you don't see it in yourself, well, it usually happens right in front of you in some way, shape, or form. So today it went direct again. So some of the pressure around relationships, whether it's one's relationship with oneself or one's relationships with others, has been alleviated. And I can certainly feel that. I mean, working with people regularly around relationships, it's been very much a time of looking at old pain, looking at people questioning their part in things rather than just blaming others, which is very interesting. What have you found?
I have found that it typically, what I have felt actually in the past, and it just did this today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then there's also a shadow period before it does go direct again, correct?
Yes.
So yeah, I have found relationships have been, and I want to say stationary. You know, they just are. They're just there. And it's not that I don't have an inclination to interact with people. It's just that I have had the need to isolate, and that's been going on for a while. And so that relationship, that Venus association for me, has been all about the internal processing of who I am. So yeah, that has undergone huge shifts, and we're going to get to all of that later. When you say that it has been retrograding in Leo, but it is now going direct as of today, how soon does it hit Virgo? Because I'm kind of thinking that the opposite of everything that you mentioned regarding Leo qualities, the opposite would be to be of service, to be giving, to be more hands-on and compassionate with others. When does that sort of kick in?
I don't have my ephemeris in front of me, so I can't tell you, but it's going direct back through Leo for a little while before it hits Virgo. But I can look it up for you when I get a break.
I was just wondering where that transition time would kind of kick in, because you're going through all the muddy water, and then you're going to get into this crystal clarity, which is going to be quite powerful, I think.
Yeah, but the other thing of the positive side of Leo is about having confidence in yourself, because Leo is naturally ruled by the sun. So Venus in Leo is, making the best of your own qualities. It's also about personal magnetism, Venus in Leo. It's about it can be about using your charisma, your personal charisma, for the good of others. But it's a realization of your own personal power. And that's often connected with feeling good about you so that you can feel good in relationships.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, Sandra has made a comment in the chat She said, "You're so right, Nina. Experienced alleviation in relationships, a calm coming in, but also a big old sort out too." So it sounds like a bit of purging is going on for people as well.
Yes, well, it would do. It would do. The thing is, when things rise to the surface to see them, when you recognize it, and I think this is always a principle in self-development work, when you deal with it, it kind of neutralizes like a bubble. The bubble bursts and then the energy is released, and there's this sense of greater freedom and lightness that comes, as well as new opportunities to use energies in new ways.
You know, again, that's right up there with the work that we do when you come right down to it, is that we as spirit beings are consistently evolving through, you know, this muddy cosmic soup that we're in. And when we do this, the abilities evolve with us, right? And so when there's new energy that's coming in, our work evolves into something that more than what we ever thought it could be, and perhaps might even surprise us in manifesting in really different ways that we could never have expected. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about doing the work. It's tough, but it's very, very rewarding. Or not but and it's rewarding.
And it's really So what else is going on with the planets these days?
Oh, well, there's still lots of rock and roll in the heavens. So let's talk about Saturn in Scorpio. So Saturn now for the next 2 weeks is still in Scorpio, and it's just rocking up after 2.5 years of being in Scorpio, back and forth and back and forth, back and forth. Now, Saturn is the planet of limitation, restriction, focus, justice, and fairness. And Saturn is also like the Grim Reaper. You know, it takes away things that are no longer useful, makes them die, and clears out the closet so that new things can be reborn. That's particularly also relevant to the sign of Scorpio, which is life and death, or saint and sinner, or sex and death, as I say.
Yeah.
So all through this period, the last 2.5 years where Saturn has been in Scorpio, it's been very heavy. Justice around everything around, well, your relationship with yourself, your sexuality, your feeling of safety, because so fear, paranoia, everything connected to, I would say, your sense of security in some ways. It has been challenged, including your work, your career, your relationships. And Scorpio is a fixed sign. It's fixed water. So think of a well or a lake. Everything is very contained and very intense. So there's been a lot of very, very hard things that people have had to deal with. And all Scorpios, Taurians, Leos, and Aquarians, so they're all the fixed signs of the zodiac, have either had squares or oppositions during this time. So that challenges these very deep beliefs about, you know, who you are, what your job is in the universe, all things around your sense of value and how other people value you.
Now, that's interesting, Nina, because Tina in the chat room has written, "For me, it has been about paying attention to my appearance and wanting to feel better about my looks, yet also not always liking what I see in the mirror and wanting to do something about it. I wonder, can that be about vanity too?"
Certainly. Tina, is this in relationship to the Saturn and Scorpio or to the Venusian thing? Is this a long-term thing thing, or just over the past sort of since July that this has been coming up for you? If you could put that in the chat room, I'll be able to answer it for you. Appearance is not really necessarily what Scorpio is about, although it does have to do with how you value yourself, so it could be, and how you feel about your own worthiness. But appearance in astrology is very connected to your ascendant in your first house. So if you have Scorpio rising or one of those fixed signs, it may also be implicated. So in astrology, it's not always the completely straightforward answer.
Yeah, and I think too, Tina, just to augment what Nina has been saying, is that it is all about you, and that doesn't necessarily include vanity as far as the ego goes. What it really alludes to is your aligning with that part of self that begins to appreciate and feel grateful for who you perceive yourself to be. And when that happens, then all the exterior components want to follow suit, because they correspond with what's going on inside as well. So that's another thing that can be happening.
I agree with that. You know, when there is this shift, you do feel like, oh, why aren't I paying attention to myself? Because I am worth it now. Yes. And so then you make practical steps to be able to address that. So that's fantastic. So thank you for that, Tina.
And Sandra said,
Tina is a Scorpio. She was addressing the Leo part, but she is a Scorpio. So you've been, as a Scorpio, over the past 2.5 years, you have been challenged to look at who you are, because Scorpio is your sun sign, and your sun represents the core of who you are and what you have to express. When Saturn goes there, you feel limited. You feel like you're squeezed to really deal with the parts that you don't like, that don't work for you. So I think it does have to do that. And the thing about looking at yourself in the mirror, if you don't like what you see, that's actually pretty physically hard. It's pretty easy to go and transform. You can have a makeover, and so that your outer appearance then becomes more in alignment with your inner feeling.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's vastly easier to change that. But then when you consider that is an illusion, kind of wondering what you're working on. But we all go through that process, and it is a journey. It is a journey. Plastic surgery.
No way. No, it's love yourself.
Yeah. Now, Sandra says that she's a Scorpio, and she has so many strengths and emotions, and her partner is Taurus. And she said, eek. He seems to be the stronger one. And, that is an interesting combination as far as I can see, because the Scorpio is that, contradictory kind of energy that doesn't really give out too much. It just sits back and watches and listens and sort of sits on things. And the Taurian energy is all about that digging in and staying the course and even being stubborn. So, when one digs in, and the Scorpion decides that, no, we want you to move, that stinger comes out, right? And yeah, that's really kind of an interesting mix.
Well, they are opposite signs, so let's remember that opposites attract.
Well,
so in every Scorpio, there's a Taurian stubbornness.
Yeah.
And an appreciation of beauty, because Taurus is Venus ruled and Scorpio is Pluto ruled. So Scorpio wants to transform things and change things and think deeply about the value of things. So that's they're having to deal with their stubbornnesses together. But the thing about fixed signs being together is that they can also appreciate that they both move at a slow at the same rhythm at quite a slow pace. So that suits when you have people who of different, not just different elements, but different parts of the cardinal, mutable, or fixed. So different parts of the season. There's a different energy connected with cardinal, which is the beginning of the season, that let's start it, let's do it, like Aries or Cancer or Libra or Capricorn. And the mutable signs, which we'll be talking about very shortly, which are Pisces and Gemini and Sagittarius and Virgos, they want change because they're at the end of the sign. So they're very fluid. They get restless. They appreciate the flux and fluidity, whereas fixed signs are about fixity and the value of things. And so
Isn't it interesting you say that, because I'm a Virgo with Sagittarian ascendant.
Right. So mutable.
Yeah.
So you are mutable.
Well, I can mute myself.
Right. not mute. No, yes, not that kind of you can change.
Yeah. I always thought I had a Leo ascendant, which is a walking, talking contradiction to me. And then when I had my self muscle tested and a new chart was cast that fit me more in alignment with who I am, it turned out that my ascendant was Sagittarius. So this I'm kind of immersed in the flux of change all the time. And I always thought that I was a type of person that wanted everything just to stay the same, just so I could breathe, right? Just give me a rest. But I actually thrive in the ever changing, because what I've learned is that chaos is actually one of the biggest gifts we'll ever have, because when there's chaos, there's every possibility that is open.
I'm going to ride the wave.
Yeah, so I kind of like the chaos. So it's good that I come in with a double mutable, right?
Yeah.
So what else is going on in the sky?
Okay. Well, I love this discussion. We're having a very Venusian discussion on the chat room, all about how you can beautify your skin. Positive beautification, and that is Venus direct. So it's not about money. There are lots of things you can do to change your outward appearance. Of course, Faradic stimulation for the circulation, aromatherapy, massage, facial exercises, but really diet is the best thing, and feeling good about yourself inside, because then you glow, and glowing is really what makes people attractive.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Totally. This is so funny. I mean, this is fun. So apropos the Venusian energy that we're experiencing. All right, next.
Okay, right. So for the next 2 weeks, we got Saturn at 29 degrees. Now, 29 degrees is crucial because it's the end. It's the end. Yeah. And you know what happens when you reach the end?
Have a new beginning.
Well, you're not quite at the end. You're 29, you're not quite at the end. You can almost see the doorway, but you're not quite there. And so, boom, everything comes up. It's like the last hurrah. And you have to clear it. So this is where we are the next 2 weeks. And it's been interesting. There's been a lot of things, we can look at politically. Things like gay marriage has come in the United States, in Britain, in Europe. That's a very Saturn and Scorpio thing. It's about justice and fairness for, gender identification and marriage and love, that kind of thing. But on the 18th of September, Saturn is finally moving into Sagittarius. So Saturn, even though it's limitation and focus and structure, is moving out of this heavy Saturnian, Scorpionic phase, and 2.5 years into Sagittarius. And it's not going back into Scorpio anymore. It's just moving forward into Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is all about spirituality. It's fun. It's It's about fairness. It's about philosophy. It's about travel. It's about expansion and opening up. So, you need to be, moving into fun, more optimistic time where things are going to move. If Saturn comes in and tries to restrict it, it'll restrict it, but without that heaviness. Something is going to change and move more quickly because Sagittarian energy is Jupiterian. It wants to expand. Mm-hmm. The kinds of things that we could see happening are, because Saturn digs things up, or, anything financial that has been like covered over. So this is about political corruption, cover-ups will come more to the surface. Also, religious zealots, zealous behavior. And, that has already begun in Scorpio with IS, but there's going to be a lot more of it. So all organized religion is going to have to get its act together, and it'll be very interesting to see what the church does and what and Islam and Israel, and, from a political point of view, it is that. Look for transportation too, because Jupiter rules transportation.
Okay.
But it's also in a positive way. More people will be looking at their spirituality and having to do something about it, because Saturn digs in and makes you look at the things that you're neglecting to pay attention to. And we know that, we are living in polarized times. And Saturn and Jupiter are both the planets in astrology of teaching. So look to education and change and form within education as well. So this is on a personal level as well as a universal level. So very exciting, and a lot of this, again, pressure is going to come off of you. But it will definitely affect all of the mutable signs. So when Saturn moves in by degree close to any planets that you have in the mutable signs, or then you will feel that Saturnian pressure in different ways. So if it's conjunct, that means it's right on it, so it's sitting on it, okay? Or by opposition, so the opposite sign is Gemini. If you're a Gemini, you could have Saturn opposition. It'll come through other people or through other situations. If it's square, squares are internal stress. So Virgos and Pisces could feel that kind of pressure, or people who have that. So for example, my moon is at 0 degrees Pisces, and I've got Jupiter in Pisces, and so for about, for a period of time, I'm going to have Saturn square that. So I'm going to have to look at my emotional stuff, because my moon, and look at lunar stuff. None of this is bad.
No.
We're talking about energy. We're not talking about bad or good. And I think that's really, really the key here. When we talk astrology, when we talk spirituality, when we talk mediumship, all of this is about energy. It's a different way to describe energy. So when I'm talking astrology, I don't want to confuse you or make it sound so complicated. It's just a language. It's like a shorthand language to say, look, this is what's happening energetically and how it's affecting us.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about potentials too, because with everything, there's a polarity. There's the negative and there's the positive. And so whatever is being offered as potential can go either way, and it really is up to us how we perceive it and how we want to focus upon it to get through it effortlessly or get through it with a big, huge struggle. So, there's always the option to do things in ways that are effortless yet still as powerful. So never forget that.
The other thing is that even the things that are negative, we need to rejoice in. And I'll say this,
nice.
I'll say this because, we're thick. I'm thick. I need to a lot of practice to change. I need to go thumb. Oh, here we go again. Right. Okay. I do have a choice. Yeah. Okay. And so that's why we practice spirituality. We're always practicing to hone, to refine our perceptions and our my outlook. So even negativity has a very positive effect. And when people come to me for consultations, what I always say is, look, you need to be grateful for the bad stuff that happens, the difficult stuff that happens, because that is what brings us to consciousness. It wakes us up.
Well, it does. And the first thing that we have to realize is that the depth of our despair is in direct proportion to the amount of joy that is existing as well. So, I'm a firm believer that you don't have to experience despair to know what joy is. You can
Yeah.
quick study, like this doesn't feel good, I'd rather turn to joy, or else you can actually get recycled through the despairing challenges until you realize that there is a different way to be. So it all gets you to where you need to be. And that's why I think, Nina, you're absolutely right when you say everything, we have to be grateful for it and we have to be accountable for it. Because if we continually think it's someone else's fault, we can't change it. We are powerless to change that which we believe is coming from the external aspect. So be accountable to say, you know what, I don't know what I was thinking, but this has come into my life and now I have the joyful task of transmuting it to something that is more in alignment with what I prefer and who I have become because of it, right? So so many different ways. Now, Emily has asked in the chat room, is it going to be a positive month for Cancerians this month? And while you're thinking about that, Nina, I'm just going to let Emily know it's a positive month for everyone if they should focus in that way. So, Nina, what do the planets say?
I really need to go get my ephemeris. but there's nothing. What I would say is that as far as I know, all the big cosmic events, rather than the minor cosmic events, are not implicated so much by the within cardinal signs, and Cancer is a cardinal sign. So we will have 2 eclipses this month. It's not, well, it is a bit unusual because usually May and November are eclipse times. But we will have 2 eclipses, a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, and in Virgo. And so whenever there's an eclipse, this is it's going to be particularly for Virgos and Pisces, very, very much on that axis, or people who have lots of Virgo and Pisces in their chart. It's anytime there's an eclipse, there's this big kind of push forward in your growth, in your consciousness. Again, it's like there's a resolution, or if it hasn't been resolved, it really comes to the fore very, very strongly. And so, thank you, Carrie. I'm going to get another
online ephemeris.
I'm going to get an online ephemeris. Thank you so much. But I can't talk and look at it at the moment. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's really sweet of you. But I will, when I'm going to hand over to Era to start talking while I look up some of these things. So Emily, of course it's going to be good for you, and now that Saturn is going to be going in Sagittarius versus being in Scorpio, it's going to be better for you, particularly because Cancer is also a water sign, very, very, very sensitive. And of course, Scorpio is a water sign, so there's a kind of a watery resonance of pain that got transmuted there. And so I feel that, it's going to be great. Yeah.
And, I can certainly attest, Nina, to the the eclipses are one thing. That super full moon in Pisces, which is my opposite sign, really did push. You know, I mean, it was expansive, that one. I wasn't expecting it. I kind of expected something with the moon in Pisces, because that's very emotional, and it did get emotional. But now with the eclipses coming, I can see where they can be actually catalysts to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
So acceleration, it might even equate to a quantum leap for some people.
Yes.
And so
because when you have an eclipse, either the sun goes on the moon, over the moon, or there's something between the Earth, sun, and the moon, and that's one of those is eclipsed, and the other one, you know. So when something is eclipsed, it means there's an alignment. So the shadow becomes visible. Your shadow becomes visible, and that's what's so powerful about it. You know, in archetypal psychology, your shadow self represents all the things that you normally don't allow yourself to experience or see, or you see them project, or you get them projected back at you from other people. But when you can align with it and realize it, boom, things really change for you.
Yeah. And you know, when they start to do that, the suggestion here is just to go with it. Latch on to that sucker and ride it for all it's worth, because that is the most expansive time, most joyful time, if you allow it to be. Now, because I'm a double mutable, I'm going to love the chaos that comes up, but it's even a little bit challenging for me, because I do get knocked off balance by it, and then I have to find that equilibrium, and then it's like I'm riding a bronco, right? I'm just giving it. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing, the power that is source, the power that courses through us, because we are that. It causes so much joy if you get out of your own way and decide that, no, it should be this way instead. All these things that get put on our back doorstep for clearing, the universe knows exactly where you want to be, and it knows the most expedient way to get you there, which is also the path of least resistance. So if something lands at your feet, get rid of it. I mean, I don't mean hide it under the carpet or behind the couch. I mean, look at it and say, wow, okay, if I want to get to where I'm going, then this is what I need to take care of right now. The universe has gifted me with this, and this is going to speed me along my way. That's what it takes. And you know, the other thing that I want to say about that is that when we meet a challenge, and often they can be so unexpected that it does cause us to recoil, but typically we can look at our challenge and know that we aren't fated to deal with it and live through it the way it first presents itself. We have the option to move it and turn it and look at it from different perspectives until we can find a way that feels better to us when it comes to focusing upon that. When we find that special way of seeing that challenge, we are halfway to the gift that it represents. And so dig in. You're not fated to suffer. Suffering is optional, believe it or not. Learning is mandatory. So just allow yourself some time to move around the challenge, figure out a way to look at it that makes you feel better, and then start acting as if that's the way it is. It's called molding the clay. It's energy. That's all it is. And it needs to be transmuted. It needs to be turned around. It needs your attention. And the sooner that you can do it joyfully, the better your life will get. Okay, rant, end of rant.
That wasn't a rant. That was a very inspiring speech, actually. I love that. Clay, mold clay. And we're always molding the clay. And that's, you know, we have the choice to mold the clay every single second. And that's what's so amazing.
It is.
The other thing, of course, is that, you know, we're thinking about these cosmic events or these planetary events as they impact our psychology here, as individuals on the earth, or as countries, or as nations, or as global issues, because astrology has that amazing ability to go from the broad to the focused, you know, or the sublime to the ridiculous, whatever. But we're talking about energy shifts here. And I think that that's and the potential for energy shifts. So the planets kind of give us that impetus to be able to become aware that we are responsible within ourselves, but we also operate within a field. And all of this field is also affecting everybody else on our planet. And our planet in our solar system, within the broad spectrum of the universe. We have had so many planetary shifts, and so much individual shifts going on. And every time you work with the energy, you contribute to not only your own evolution, but to the evolution of all that is.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's so true, because we can pound our fists on our tables and point fingers and cry foul at every little thing that displeases us and that we believe should not happen. And really, when the energy we see does that, that is a call to love. That, to me, is what that is. It's a call to love. It's see what's necessary, see what's necessary. It's necessary to heal it. We all know how wrong it is. We all know that not many people like it. But really, in essence, what is happening is it's a call to love. It's a call to change. It's a call to offer a different energy stream. And you know what's really ironic about that is that the energy stream that is being called upon, we already are. We're already that. And so what we need to do is soothe the pain and just say, you know what, if things need to change so badly, then it needs to start with me. And it needs to start with my ability to love everything, to love even that which I do not like to witness. I need to love. And if everyone did that, the planet would begin to heal, because the energy would be transmuted exponentially, really.
Yes.
So it doesn't take much love to do it, but it does take love.
And speaking of which, we have one more planetary event, which is significant, also starting the 17th of September. So the 17th and the 18th of September, a very critical time. Mm-hmm. Our lovely Mercury is going to retrograde for 3 weeks. So everybody, we're in the shadow now, goes retrograde for 3 weeks, and then has another 2 weeks of shadow after that. So shadow time is when the planet goes stationary and it starts to prepare to go back again, or not it's going back, but the relationship between Earth and that planet is shifting. And so we're already being challenged to look at everything around communication, clarity in communication, everything to do with your paperwork, everything to do with your transportation, everything to do with communication, just in every way, our computers, etc. So just be prepared. And again, see Mercury retrograde is a time to catch up on things that you haven't completed, paperwork, or a time to connect with people who you haven't connected with in a while, or a time to resolve misunderstandings. So see it as a positive sign.
Well,
so go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We can use it to the positive. I mean, everyone tends to shudder at Mercury in retrograde, and I have a tendency to do that myself, but it needn't be that way. The first two letters of retrograde are RE, and that is your key for this month. the RE is the redo, revisit, reconsider, rethink. Everything is the business. And so if you want to just take a nice big deep breath and sit back and say, well, now is not the time for me to start something new. Now is the time for me to sit back and review the plan that I've put in place. And I know that the perfect time will come for me to implement this. But right now, it's all about giving me a breather so that I can make sure that all my ducks are in a row adequately. And, you know, the thing with Mercury in retro, too, is it does sort of have the potential to disrupt travel, right? There's delays in flight schedules because communication and technology goes down. All sorts of things can happen. But if we turn around and say, you know what? Everything happens perfectly under the sun. Everything. Source energy never says, oops, I didn't mean for that to happen, right? So just know that everything is working and conspiring in your favor, no matter how it looks. Your task is to accept it and say, okay, I'm going to go with this flow now because this is happening. And it's the ride, right, Nina?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the ride. And when stuff happens, I always think it's like putting you on the pause. Pause, pause.
Yeah.
And I say the pause button is all about pause, center, assess, choose, act.
Yeah. And, you know, we have so much activity in the skies as far as astrology goes. I mean, all these eclipses are coming up I think they're all going to serve those who are more susceptible to them in great ways. And so we should actually be celebrating this particular time.
It's a great time to go within.
It is. It truly is. And sometimes, you know, I have found that sometimes the going within isn't something that you can deliberately choose. You know, like you can really want to and try and, you know, you kind of feel mediocre about it, so you leave it alone for a while. But every once in a while, you get a calling, and it is a calling, and it is so strong. There is no urgency to it, but it's very, very powerful, and it can lure you in if you allow it to, and it is the most phenomenal experience that you can ever have because it's truly magical and truly transformative. And that is what I think we are heading into specifically this month. Now, we did put a call out last week for people to post their topic suggestions for discussion today. And Emily posted one that was really quite interesting, and that is the September shift. And we all have heard that September 28th in particular is very, 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 very powerful, and it portends certain activities that we have to be mindful of. And really, what I think this month is, there is no time. And so to me, this particular time is available all the time, in every moment, to all of us. It's just that when all our focus is converged on one specific event or month, that it suddenly becomes important.
Yes.
But this is like the harmonic convergence from 1987. Do you recall that, Nina?
Yes. A big lineup of planets and a big change in consciousness of worldwide for people.
Yes, and that is what I feel is occurring. And, you know, it isn't relevant to or isolated to one specific date. So we don't want to sit back and say, well, on September 28th, everything's going to change, right? Right now, there's a buildup of energy. And that buildup of energy is a flow, and that flow is ever going downstream. And it's right now just intensifying a little bit, and it's going to intensify a little more. And we all have that wonderful opportunity to jump on the flow and allow it to carry us into this expanded consciousness that we're all searching for. We're all here to evolve into. And if your vibration is ready for it, then that's what will occur. But it's there for everyone, every moment. And that's what I think this September energy is all about. Now, I've heard that the Earth energy is going to increase by 2 or 3 hertz, I think it is, more than what it has been. And so this is going to cause, you know, our DNA to morph a little bit, and we're going to be doing things in new ways. Well, that's what we're evolving into anyway, right? So this energy is just assisting in that process because, you know, it's always been there. We just haven't been focused upon it. We've been too busy pointing out what's wrong with what everybody else is doing. So now it's time to really start getting focused on what is possible. What are those new ways? And anchor the light, anchor the love in ways unimagined as yet. But those ways will present themselves as this beautiful energy intensifies. And when that happens, only good can come from it. Nina?
Well, Sagittarius, I mean, Alfie just came in and he asked, so what's happening with Sagittarians? Well, we said that Saturn is going into Sagittarius, and it will be there now for 2.5 years as of the 18th of September. And it will force Sagittarians who like to be all over the place,
yeah,
to focus, to really dig deep into their spirituality and their philosophy, and really question, to focus on things that are important in terms of communication. And it won't be easy for Sagittarians, because Saturn is never easy, because it forces you into a small box, and Sagittarians don't like to be in a box. They like to be expanding. Fairness, decency, dealing with religion, spirituality, your own personal spirituality. We look at everything from everything that's like institutional corruption, particularly in religions, is going to be part of that. Anything to do with transportation companies, railways, air travel, etc., or will be implicated, because Sagittarian is about foreign things. So also anything to do politically with foreign policies, there's going to have to be fundamental structural changes, because Saturn represents structures and institutions. So there can be the fall of institutions and the rise of new institutions. So that's on a political level, but on a personal level, it also has to do with your personal structures, how you structure your life, how you go from point A to point B, what you believe in. All of this is very important. Teaching is also, education is very Sagittarian oriented. So Saturn in Sagittarius is going to be a shakedown and bringing to the surface of things that are buried and brought into the light. But it won't be so heavy. It'll just move quicker. Everything will move really quickly. If we think things have been moving quickly now, just you wait. It's going to really shift. So we're coming in more and more into the light, and I absolutely love it.
Yes, yes. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about that shift, and how quickly and how profound it is and can be. And we know that we lost, we know exactly where he is. Wayne Dyer transitioned last weekend, and I can't even begin to tell you what a profound effect it had on me, and I had no idea why. So I kind of sat with it for a little while and went within, and then soon I began to channel, and I channeled some pretty incredible information. And it wasn't information like I normally channel, with watch out this country because this is going to happen, right? It was more deep and personal, and it showed me a direction and gave me clarity on what was necessary. And I sat back and I meditated with this information, and then I stumbled upon the movie The Shift by Wayne Dyer, and I watched it, and I was actually a little mystified because everything that was shared in the movie I had just finished channeling, and this was not the first time that I have channeled information and then heard about it, of course. I mean, I did that same thing with Eckhart Tolle. I was given something specific, and then I was told to go and look in this book, and I looked in this book, and there was the experience, right? I read about it later. So it was really deep and quite profound, and it caused a huge shift within me, how I viewed the work that I do, how I viewed myself, and it has caused me to go into a period of time. It's like a hibernation of sorts, a little isolation maybe, but it is a learning curve, and it is a huge learning curve. And yet I don't feel it's daunting. I don't feel the struggle, and I certainly don't strain with it. I just realized that everything I knew about myself, about the energy of Source, now is shifting and changing and becoming vastly more meaningful, and vastly more powerful too. And that's the kind of thing, if you allow it to just occur and have no resistance. I mean, to tell you the truth, Nina, the last thing I want to change is my work. Right? It's like, no, change me, change whatever you want, but please leave my work alone. And yet it's all good. It's all good. And I know that everything is happening perfectly. And so when I kind of experience this type of profound shift, and I have to say that there is a peace in me now that I've never experienced before, that is long lasting, not just fleeting, right? But it's long lasting, and it's here. It's like a quantum leap for me, and I'm loving it. But that is there for everyone. Everyone has that opportunity, and we're all triggered, and this is really important to understand. We're all triggered at different times, but in different ways. And it could be so subtle the way one gets triggered. It could be a comment. It could be something that you see. For me, it was that depth of resonation when I read for the first time that Wayne Dyer had passed. And it was so deep and so powerful. I'm thinking, why am I feeling this way? So that started me on the hunt, and that was my trigger. So allow yourself to be triggered. It's okay. And as long as you're not going to resist what you get, then you will be okay-er, right?
Okay-er.
We're making up words as we go here. So, you know, everything happens for you. Nothing happens to you. And everything happens for the greater good. And once we start getting our heads around that fact, everything becomes effortless. Absolutely effortless. There's nothing to strain at. There's nothing to go after. Everything just is okay. And will always be so, because that's eternally who we are. Nina?
Wow. Amen.
Yeah.
Our woman, our goddess.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we just want to say today is Goddess Day, World Goddess Day. And, you know, we're celebrating all the women in the chat room, all the goddesses on this planet, and all the divine feminine, and all the men who are manifesting there today. So let's just celebrate this moment. It's wonderful.
And it's a perfect moment. And
perfect.
You know, that's why it just feels so good to do that. Now, Emily is saying she feels like she's reaping the benefits of all her spiritual journey of learning and change that started the beginning of this year. And, you know, that's the Saturn effect. You know, Saturn just sort of plods along and takes its own time. But when it sits on you, it sits on you for a long time too, and you feel it. So good for you for understanding that, you know, something is going on, and I am going to be diligent in trying to ferret out exactly what the choices are. I was going to say what the expectation is, but there is never any expectation. All we have is choice. So choose with what makes you feel better. And, learning always empowers. So it's that ancient wisdom that we allow to resurface within us over and over again over lifetimes. And that is what we latch onto and ride the wave. I love it. You're going in the right direction, Emily.
Well, get your rewards. And speaking about rewards, Tina, if we track back a little bit, when we were talking about Mercury retrograde, she says, can Mercury retrograde also bring rewards? Rewards for past work or tasks that you've done but didn't receive recognition for? Yes, Tina, it can, because Mercury is about, retrograde is about redressing the balance within communication. So that is that verbal reward or practical rewards for jobs well done can also be expressed during a Mercury retrograde period. Good point.
Mm-hmm. And there's those positives again, right?
Indeed, we're looking for positives. So, right. Yes. Well, energy shifts, I guess, obviously now we've been focusing on September, and we're also have been focusing a little bit on over the past period of time with astrological view, from an astrological viewpoint. From a psychic perspective, I think we can talk about this now.
Yes.
Because I don't know, who's here in the chat room has had sleep problems? Okay, raise your psychic hands, raise your hands in the chat room. Let us know. I mean, over the past, period of time, sleep problems, being, waking up periodically consistently during the night, or problems where you wake up and all of a sudden it's 111, 111, 222, 333. Okay, Christy says yes. Tina says moi. I certainly have. I know Era has. And have there been more dreams? Have there, what has been the common factor for you? Why do you think you're waking up? Hi, John David. Yes, John David says yes as well. Carrie says, laughing out loud, what is sleep? And Emily says, I'm always seeing numbers like that. So let's talk about the repetition numbers, 222, 1313, 1414, 1444, that kind of thing. They say that that is about seeing the angels, etc. I think it's about alignment. And I wonder if you agree with me. It's about being tuned in because it's tuned into energy events, something to pay attention to. And whenever I see that, I always pause. Did you hear what we were talking about, Era?
Well, I left just as
like 222, 111, time.
Yeah,
like often when I wake up, it's 2:22 in the morning or 4:44 in the morning, and 3:33 says Jan. And people have been saying that they've been having really powerful dreams. And for me, when I see those repetitive numbers, some people say it's about angelic intervention. What I say, it's about being aware of some kind of cosmic shift or being in alignment. And it's a time to just pause and appreciate that.
Yes. And, of course, when it comes to sleep, I mean, I was answering emails on Facebook. 5 o'clock in the morning because I'd been up since 3. And yeah, when I wake up, it's at, 1:11 or 2:22. 5:55 is another one that I've been seeing. When I'm up and around, I can't escape it either because I'll look at the clock and it's 11:11. And so, yeah, to me, it's all about alignment. It's energy. Everything is energy. And there are times when our energy aligns, and that's when we have to understand that, our desires have been heard and they're on the way because our energy is in alignment with it. Now, our task is simply to be aware of what the heck we've been asking for because we change our minds so often. But, to know that we are in alignment with source energy itself, that to me is the greatest gift of all. And to lay back, and I don't know how many times I've done this, and it seems the past 2 weeks have been, actually the past month has been extremely interrupted. I just lay back and go, wow, it's 2:22. Alignment, it feels so good. And I'm so glad that I was able to wake up to experience the awareness of it and didn't sleep right through it. Now, fortunately, I don't have to get up and go to an outside job. So I can bask in the luxury of, if I wake up at 3, I wake up at 3. So big deal. It becomes a big deal when I have a client at 8 o'clock in the morning or at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm ready to nap, right? But everything happens for you. And what a glorious time it is to be awake and aware. And, isn't that odd? Be awake and aware whether we're sleeping or whether we're waking state, right? It's all about the awakening.
I love that because being woken up, I used to sleep like a log, and now I don't sleep like a log anymore. Every 2 or 3 hours I'm up. So I don't let it bother me. Sometimes I get up, sometimes I do some stuff, I walk around, sometimes I read or get a drink, then I go back to bed, then I wake up again. But I think the reason for me is that the nighttime is a time when there's so much less astral noise. People aren't talking on the phones. They're not doing a lot of stuff. In wherever I am in the world, it's quiet. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good time to meditate. It's a really good time to just appreciate that sense of connectedness, as you said. So rather than getting crazy about it, just take the moment, enjoy the moment, surrender to it. So let's talk a little bit about some of the feedback we've had in the chat room, because for the benefit of our archive viewers. So, right. So Jan says 333, keeps repeating for them. And Carrie says, wow, dreams have been powerful. I think it really is a time where, there's a lot, it's a lot more than just personal dreams.
Yes.
So it's much more like either past life recollections or real insight into what's important, or astral travel, or some kind of message. Everything seems to be much more clear, more profound, don't you find?
There's a real depth to what is being provided through our subconscious when we sleep at night. Dreams are really starting to ramp up. I know just personally, I've had my own stellar kind of information delivered through Dream State, and I've had so many clients this past couple of weeks email me because they've had some huge dream that they could not sort of find their way through. And when I hear it, my jaw actually drops to the floor because it is so profound and so powerful for them. And the message is just not about, well, what should I do about work, right? It's about what that soul is here to do, and how it's progressing, and how things are going to break open for them, and on these huge levels. So yeah, dream state's very, very powerful. Yeah,
John David Parker says, I never dream usually, meaning he probably never remembers his dreams.
yeah.
But these last few days, I've been waking from negative dreams. Well, that's interesting. I think negative dreams can happen when you're pondering over things, when you're trying to sort things out. And it's kind of a cue from your subconscious mind to like pay attention. It can highlight your fears. It can highlight whatever, perhaps sometimes it's around guilt or sometimes about things that are unresolved. And they can be literal or they can be symbolic. So if you're somebody who does not usually remember your dreams, then when you do remember your dreams, it's sometimes, very worthwhile to write it down, plus write down the emotion that you had, and then revisit it a few days later so you can get some perspective on it, and then you can figure out what it really meant to you, because they will be important. Sometimes also provoking those emotions release hormones, they release things in your body that your body needs. So sometimes that's also an element there too.
Well, you'll certainly know what's at play there, because it's been my experience that if a message is not being understood or brought into waking awareness, then the subconscious tends to ramp up the energy of the dream. And so it becomes more and more, not negative, but more and more
like a shout, like woohoo.
And so if it's still being missed, that's how nightmares actually develop, because the intensity has been ramped up so much because it really wants you to get it, right? So it's really to understand the symbols in the dream, and like Nina said, document it all and work to transmute that energy, because it's showing you what is at play in your waking state that needs your attention and your healing. So it's always good to revisit them. And John David Parker, for whatever it's worth, there is a way to incubate dreams and allow yourself to remember. It's my understanding that we all dream on average, this is average, 17 dreams a night. We only remember, if any, a handful, one or two, possibly three. My favorite dreams, Nina, I don't know about you, is when I'm dreaming about something and it's so good, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be awake. And I go back and I pick up the dream where I left off, right? And it continues on. I love when that happens. But the dreams are always full of messaging, so always try and pay attention, for sure.
Well, dream interpretation is a huge subject, and maybe we should have another discussion on that one night, because it's one of my absolute favorite subjects.
Tina,
snap. Tina says, unusual dreams, trying to interpret what it may symbolize as they don't make sense. Well, just really, really briefly, that those kind of dreams, nonsense type dreams, where, you may be dreaming about your grandmother who's been dead, and, your next door neighbor who now in a house you haven't lived in 15 years, and, the sky is red, and a series of absurd things happen. Those are all symbolic dreams that relate to you and your personality, and everybody in that dream is a part of you, and every area in that dream relates to something that you feel or have experienced. So sometimes a little bit complicated to pick it apart, or a bit tedious, but it's a mine of information that can be very, very extremely specific and useful for you to understand. And it's not always what you feel it to be. So,
and Christy's saying she's always dreaming about strangers, and it's weird. And what that dream is doing, Christy, is it's allowing you to interact with different aspects of who you are that you are unaware of at this time. Whenever you dream of someone that you know, it's always about dealing with an aspect of yourself that you know very well, and it's very active in your waking state. When you dream about strangers, it's always about components of yourself that you have no idea even exist, and you're about to find out. So just know that you're always being let in on the mystery as you go along, and just know that there's going to be things that occur in your life, and they don't necessarily have to be bad things. They can be very joyful things, and you're going to experience them and react or respond to them differently. And that means that component that had been a stranger to you is now being integrated and active and triggered into your waking state, which is good, because it means that you're becoming whole. And that's what the part of the journey is all about too. Now, Tina, what is Tina saying? Are these
strangers similar to people you know in your day-to-day life? If so, it can symbolize those you do know and think you know well, but are strangers to you, as they keep part of themselves hidden, or you are not taking the time to spend quality moments with them. Perhaps, but my interpretation is much more that the strangers tallies with Era, in that the strangers are parts of you that are that you are estranged from. So there's lots of characters that you can have in your dreams. So people you know. You can also have role models like teachers or judges or policemen or people like that, and then they, they're your teacher or your judge or your policeman, your inner policeman. You can have people who have no faces. You can have faceless people. You can have people with faces who you don't recognize, but and you can then have people you do recognize, like your friends, your mothers, your father, etc. So each of those characters in your dream is a part of you. And that's what's confusing to people when they interpret their dreams, because they don't really understand that it's still all about them. They want to keep putting it onto somebody else, but it's not. It's all about you.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
When you look at your dream broadly, stand back and look at all the symbols. It just isn't isolated to people that you're interacting with. It's where you are in the dream. If you're in a house, in a building, whether you're upstairs, downstairs, in a basement, if there's water around, what does the water look like? What is it doing? If there are trees there, what colors are prominent? Yeah. Everything matters. That's why it's so important to document all those things, so that once you get a handle on how to interpret those symbols, you will see upon retrospect that there is a common thread running through here, and now you're able to see the message from a place higher than you being in it. So yeah, absolutely amazing. I love dreams.
Yeah, so we'll have a show on dreams.
Yes.
Dream interpretation, the 3 levels of dreaming.
Yeah, you were talking about dreams, etc. And I looked at my computer clock, and it was 2:22 my time.
And it was 22:22 here.
Yeah, I said 2 is the feminine, right?
Yeah.
We have goddess energy everywhere. So
yes,
really.
And thank you everybody for participating so much. So let's see. Let's go back to numbers. So because we got kind of sidetracked on dreams, which has been great because I've been reading through things. Carrie has lots of 111s, 222s, 3s, 4s, 5s, etc. And Alfie says 333, and John David Parker 444, 555, and Alfie doesn't go to sleep until 333, and etc. So I think that we're all having this fantastic senses of synchronicity on a very regular basis. And I just love that. And it's all about, as people say, awareness and taking the time to remember and reflect and be connected, being connected. So great discussion here. Great discussion.
It has been. So many things are coming up. And you know what I love about this? It's like a real grab bag. anything that's on anyone's mind, you just put it in the chat room and we have at it. And everybody else contributes too, which is fantastic.
Yes, it's our little community, and I love it. I love it. And we hope that if you're listening to this as an archive viewer, that you're inspired to. And then remember, just to reiterate, you can leave us comments on our YouTube video page to, on what it is that was triggered for you as part of this discussion, and what you would like to contribute. And if anybody in the chat room or any of our archive viewers want to bring up topics or subjects or ask questions or have things they want us to discuss, please do let us know. We really, really want that. And we value you. You value you.
Well, I just want to thank Emily for posting the article she did as a topic suggestion, because we take these things seriously. If something's on your mind, we want to know about it. And we may not have the answers, who really does, but at least we can all share, and it's in the sharing that we all learn, and that's what the platform's all about. So thank you, Emily. Very, very appreciated. So Tina says that I will know the person, but she had a dream this past week. She was getting married to Mark Messier. Must have been quite the dream there, Tina. And that was on its own island. So that's speaking of a really large component of you that you know very well, and that everyone else knows about you very well too. And that is a masculine kind of energy. And getting married means that you are committed to using this particular energy in your waking state, and always to be of service. And lately it seems, or it has been, that you've been keeping that aspect of yourself to yourself, and that's what the island is all about. And so you are now ready to you're now ready to allow it to let it loose, so to speak. That zoo is going to open its doors, and everyone is.
And I assume that Mark Messier is rather hot.
Rather, yeah.
So you're getting married to your hotness, your masculine hotness. We like that.
Yeah, so, that's a little bit of insight. I'd really have to be tuning in a lot more to really get into that. And boy, would I love to get into that. Okay.
So John David Parker says, we know there is no time, and yet we see these numbers on the digital clock. Strange. And Christy says, hen one thinks Einstein's numbers. What? Hen one thinks.
When one thing.
Einstein numbers are fascinating.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of a typo happening there that's confusing how she wants to voice her statement. Interesting, John David Parker. Yeah, there is no time, but on this plane of existence, we have created the construct of such. And so we will use it to show and remind ourselves that there is something greater than us that we align to. And that is the little presence, the little gifts that source energy inserts into our reality. And fortunately, we wake up to see those. So that's good. Okay, Christy's having typing issues. When one thinks as Einstein, numbers are fascinating. Is that what you meant, Christy? Einstein himself is very fascinating. Worked. And I love the information that he has left us all to consider. Yeah, he's pretty fascinating. Numbers are actually fascinating as well.
So, Tina says Mark Messier is not really her type. Yeah, but you dreamed about him. So what we really would need to know about this is, what do you really think of Mark Messier? And then that will be, just think about it as yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever qualities you attribute to him, then you attribute to yourself.
Yeah, I'm having a challenge how any hockey player could not be anyone's type, but that's just me. Yeah, okay, moving along.
So where were we? Where were we in our discussions? We were on sleeping. We were on sleeping and sleep changes in sleep patterns. And I mean, sleep is a very important aspect of our being. When we don't have, when we're sleep deprived, we don't function very well. So why is it then that if we have interrupted sleep, that we actually can function well? What's changing in our universe, or what's changing in our concept of things?
Okay, so that's an interesting question, because as soon as you said it, I went, hey, yeah, what's up with that? I've been awake since 3 a.m. and I'm fine. So evidently I didn't need the sleep that I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that also leads me to believe that we need to really monitor the statements we make in order to only speak our truth. Because now I've reached this dilemma where obviously I don't need the sleep. I've been awake since 3 and I'm fine, but yet I still say I can't function well if I don't have my full 8 hours. So which one is the truth?
The truth is that for today, you're functioning fine. And then when you need to sleep, you will. And that's how I operate. That's how I've operated for years. Yeah. I never had 8 hours of sleep. I'm a 6-hour girl. 6 hours, the maximum I can sleep. But I haven't slept 6 hours through the night, and I can't even tell you how long. Probably about 15 years.
My thing right now and I mean, I'm an 8-hour a night girl, and 6 hours I can basically see. I'm doing it again. In the past, the old I need 8 hours. Yes. I would need 8 hours. Now I don't seem to need as much. You function well on 6.
As long as I get 6 hours, it doesn't have to be consecutive. That's what I find. I can sleep 3 hours, be up for an hour, go back to sleep for another 2 hours, take a little nap later on, and that's fine.
See, I don't have issues falling asleep. I used to all the time because my moon is in Gemini. So my mind is constantly going. Things are flowing in and flowing out all the time, and it rarely stops. So getting to sleep has always been an issue. But now I can get to sleep, drop of the hat, but I'm having issues staying asleep. I can sleep for an hour and a half, and then I'm up for a couple of hours, and then I'll go back and I'll see if I can sleep. And sometimes I'll sleep for another hour and a half, and then I get up because I'm frustrated. Yeah, I'm tired of this. So yeah, my issue isn't staying asleep, or going to sleep. It's always now staying asleep. So something's waking me up.
It's not an issue. Don't make it an issue, and it won't be an issue.
Well, that's what I'm starting to learn. And I think it was, who's that poet? No, not E.E. Cummings. Waldo.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Yeah, he's the one that said, and I'm not quoting it correctly, but please do look it up because it is a powerful one. When the dawn calls you, it's because she has secrets to whisper. Don't fall asleep. Don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep. And it's interesting because I do my best writing, according to me, at the dawn. If I get up at 3, which I did this morning, I was doing some writing, flowed effortlessly. It was right there, and it was a joy to do. It wasn't a struggle at all. So there's something to it. And so pay attention to what your body is telling you. And for heaven's sakes, don't let your mind say to you, what are you doing? You must sleep. You need to get to work tomorrow. Your body knows exactly what it's doing. So trust it.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Oh, I feel almost like the energy's closing down, don't you? What do you think?
Yes.
All of a sudden, I just felt this, whoo.
Yeah, everything's folding in on itself.
Yeah. So are there any questions from the chat room? Anybody want to say anything, contribute? Yeah, John David says, wrote a lot of songs just before falling asleep. Yep, you're between the planes, between the worlds.
Yeah. But see, that's the access that everyone has. And, you know, all we need to do is be silent enough and be willing to listen. That's what it takes. It's not silent enough that we can worry about all the things that we couldn't fix during, you know, waking hours. It's all about, you know, being still within us and having the ability and the wherewithal to just sit and listen. And some of the best music, I think, is written during that time. And John David Parker, I think you're a living testament to that. So be quiet, be still, and just listen. That's all you need to do. It's very cool. Anybody else have any comments? I think we might just close this down a little earlier today. If everyone is satisfied and doesn't have anything more they wish to contribute or ask. You have a question, Carrie? Go for it.
Go, Carrie, go. Okay. Okay, so Tina's saying, can you talk about love? Any input for those via astrology or any other form for those that are single? Ah, information from the goddesses. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to contemplate that for Tina.
You know, Tina, it's my it's my thing that a lot of things are going to be changing, and the possibilities are endless when it comes to the potential of what we have to create in our lives and attract in. And the thing that I keep going back to, and I know that you're going to maybe not appreciate it as much as you'd like, is that we need to work on ourselves first. And because there's such a concerted effort to reflect the value you feel of yourself, which is marvelous, by the way. And once we start doing that, our vibration shifts to a point where we're actually opening the door. And with this current shift of energy that we are experiencing this month alone, the possibilities increase almost exponentially. So there's going to be lots of chances for people who are looking to partner with someone in life, but you really have to understand that you will only attract in that which you are. And if what you are is a half-empty vessel, and I'm not saying that's who you are, but for everyone else listening, if you're a half-empty vessel, that's what you're going to attract in. So be the best that you can be. Give yourself the dignity of your own efforts to allow yourself to be who you are and love who you are, every aspect of who you are, and then you will attract in that which complements that beautiful, magnificent energy that you are already. So that's the way I'm going to leave that. Nina?
I totally agree. I was going to say that practice loving yourself and appreciating yourself. And then when you start broadcasting that energy, you roll out the carpet for somebody to appreciate you back.
Yeah, it's
and the other thing is that you know, with Venus and Leo then moving into Virgo, it's a very good time for love because Venus is direct, and we said before that, you know, Leo is the sign of the sun, natural of the sun. It's about self-expression, it's about shining, it's about charisma, it's about, you know, and if you're Venus, if Venus, that naturally in Leo, the positive aspect about that is feeling good about you. Of course I'm a goddess. Of course, you know, I have so much to offer. Of course I have value. Of course I'm uniquely me. And this isn't a negative ego thing. This is a positive affirmation of who you are. And once you start appreciating who you are, you allow other people to appreciate you. And then that is the first step to being magnetized, you know, magnetic for the opposite sex, if that's what you want, or for a love to come into your life. The other thing is that, you know, people who are single always want a partner, and people who have partnerships are always saying, oh, Oh, being in a partnership is so difficult. It's like, I mean, it's rewarding and it's difficult. So, whichever side of the fence you're on, it's still all about you and your relationship with yourself. If you're in a partnership, that can be equally challenging because you still are having reflected back to you from your partner everything about you. And it's a complete learning curve all the time. So I think that Ara's point is I'm in total agreement with. It's still all about yourself.
Now, can you address Carrie's question, Nina? And then I
Certainly.
will take care of Emily there right after you've finished.
Perfect. So Carrie says, what's the difference between your rising sign and your ascendant sign? Both of those signs for me are different. Actually, your rising sign and your ascendant are the same thing. It is the sign at the degree when the sun is rising on the day of and place of your birth. And that's what your ascendant is. And that's the first degree of your first house. So there is no difference between that. It's just called rising or ascendant, and it means exactly the same thing. So I will just elaborate a little bit more and say what it means. So your ascendant is how the world sees you. It is your physical description. It's also the description of the moment of your birth, which is very interesting. And people look like their rising sign or their ascendant sign. And everything aspecting to it, not necessarily their sun sign, of course, unless they have their sun conjunct their ascendant. So it's very important because that's your first interface with the outer world. And it's always active, which is why it's such a significant part of your astrological chart. So I hope that that's been just a very snippet, clear explanation. And why did you've been told your ascendant and rising sign is different? How is it different? I'd be interested to know that, Carrie.
Same thing. It's just called something different, right?
So yeah, but he says both of those signs for me are different, but they're not different, actually. But I'd be interested in finding out what he's been told. So
I think it's a she.
Oh, sorry, Carrie. It's a she.
Yeah. So yeah, the rising is the ascendant. So yeah, that's where it can't be different.
It isn't. It won't be different.
No. So Emily's question is it possible to give out our own positive vibration without ever being affected by others' negative frequencies? Very, very good question. We live in a duality. This plane of existence says they both exist at the same time. When we're starting out and we have not secured our vibration to a great degree and we're slipping and sliding back and forth on the emotional guidance system, then we are more apt to be affected or impacted by the energies around us. But the good news is once you really work to raise your vibration to something that is positive and you're able to maintain that, oddly enough, because of the way the universe works, oddly enough, the negative Nellies can't even come close to you because they can't even see you. You know, you're functioning at a much different level. It doesn't mean it's better, it's just different, right? So yes, the possibility is there. We always have the option of stepping out of that vibration and interacting and engaging with something that is displeasing, but we don't always have to. And that is our personal choice, and we should really guide it and guard it at all times to ensure that we are maintaining the vibrational level that is appropriate for us. We don't have to engage with the negativity around us. So just know that it's there, and you have a choice in every moment to either react or respond or not even engage. So there you go. Okay, so there's some sort of talk going on in the chat room there.
Sorry, I'm answering some, I'm still continuing to answer Carrie's question. So if you have your ascendant in Cancer, then your descendant, which is the opposite, would be the opposite sign, which is Capricorn. If your rising sign is Capricorn, then your descendant would be Cancer. So ascendant, descendant, or rising and descendant, which is the sign on the 7th house cusp, which is opposite. Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Good.
sense. You're welcome, Emily. Entirely welcome. We are a work in progress, and we cannot go from frustration to joy in one fell swoop. It is a progress that we work our vibration up at all times and learn to maintain it. And we will slide back to where we spent the most time. But when we get to where we're going and we are feeling so good and so positive and our lives are changing because of it, then we're less apt to slide back down into the depths. Again, we don't need to be there. We've transmuted that energy and we've worked our way up the emotional guidance system. So just know that you're going in the right direction, and it does take baby steps, and it's moment by moment by moment. You're choosing what is appropriate for you. And it matters not what everyone around you is thinking or saying or doing or how they're acting or not. It matters not. Just do not give the external world any more notice than what is absolutely necessary, because it's all an illusion. It is being reflected back to you, that which is in you. So sometimes that's good to know, but we cannot be looking at others as for being the ones responsible of where we're at vibrationally, because it's never about anyone else. It's all about you. And I have to tell you, Emily, you are doing it. So good for you, and keep going, because you're worth it. You're worth it. And you're built for it. We all are.
I think it's really interesting the way that you ask that question, because one of the things that I'm very conscious of, and I know Era is too, about words, the words that we choose to express ourselves. So you say, is it possible to give out our own positive vibration without ever being affected by others' negative frequencies? So yes, we exist within a matrix and we are aware of all different kinds of frequencies, positive and negative, around us. But the word giving out, that phrase, to me, means that you are trying to give out rather than just being.
Yeah.
So this is about broadcasting the positive energy, positive vibration of who you are. And if you are vibrating at that frequency, you're naturally giving. You're not trying to give. You don't have to do anything except be, and you broadcast it. And if you're in that space, then you can be aware of other people's negative frequencies, but not absorb them.
Yeah, and I'm a true believer that, there's so many people that are, come to me and say they're empathic, and, they have all these issues because of it. And really, we're all empaths. We truly are, because we're all the same energy. How can we not feel what one another is feeling? If you're super sensitive to it, you will feel it. But my thing is if you're out and about and you're feeling negativity from people, I would have to ask why you're focused on what you're getting. Mm-hmm. Your focus should always be on what you contribute. If you go out and you are more focused upon how you can make a difference, how you can be of service, how you can make one person smile, right, that passes you on the street, that is when your vibration takes on a whole new frequency, because you are in service mode. You are out to make a difference. You're contributing. You're not worried about what you're going to get from every person that passes by you. So that is one trick. And the other thing that I'd like to say about the empaths who really struggle when they go out to the mall because of so many different energies is if you can pick up on the negative, because there is a love polarity, you can also pick up on the joy. Yet I have not heard very many empaths come to me and say, you know what, it's just so exhausting when I go to the mall because I'm picking up on all this joy. I can hardly stand it. I know. And that is there for you too. It all depends on where you place your focus. So be mindful because it is your vibration. You're responsible for how you use it, and it never has anything to do with anybody else.
Right. So I'm going to pick a card.
Oh,
I just got inspired. I'm going to pick a card.
Right,
so everybody concentrate. We're going to pick a card for message for us all.
All right. This is going to be, I can feel it. It's going to be powerful.
Financial and material changes, 5. So this is the chaos theory. You know, we have 5 fingers on our hands. They're all moving in different directions, but they're all connected to the palm, to the part that has the grip, right? Mm-hmm. So changes can only happen because we are expanding and because we need to keep our minds and our hearts open in order to grasp the opportunities that are always there for us, the rainbow of opportunities. And that's what this card is telling us.
So in as much as all fingers are moving and moving in different directions, it means that it has a greater grasp on the field of pure potentiality. All things are possible, so you never know what is being touched at any time. How you will know is what you're focused on. So if you're focused on the lack thereof, that's what your experience will probably be, because that's what you're inviting in. And if you focus on the abundance of all things, then that is what your experience will be. You will receive more abundance.
Right.
Awesome.
Thank you. Awesome card.
Am I telling Financial you? Grip. Yeah, that's it.
Get a grip.
Get a grip on your focus and on your vibration. I love you guys. I love you guys. So I think that's it for today. I've really enjoyed myself. Nina, thank you so much for your expertise and your wisdom today. I think it's really had a great impact on everyone who has been viewing the show thus far, and I'm sure it will go far in impacting the archive viewers as well. And thank you in the chat room for all your questions and all your comments, because you really have a lot to offer, and the questions you ask are really stimulating, and it does offer the opportunity for us all to grow. So thank you very much. And next week, Nina, we have Brad Johnson on the show. He is called the Reality Whisperer. Can you believe that? The Reality Whisperer. And he channels. So this is going to be a very interesting show, because I'm eager to listen to how he sort of came to this kind of knowledge and what he's doing with it and what he's doing next, right? So it's going to be a great show. Hope you guys can tune in. Thank you again, Nina. It's been a delight. It's been
likewise,
right?
Likewise. I also want to just flag up that I know quite a lot about astrology, but I'm not the astrologer. But on the 20th of September, we're having a great mate of mine whose name is Raymond Castrogiovanni, who is a very, very good astrologer. And he's one of his major things, although he's going to be he's also a very good clairvoyant. And he's going to be talking to us about song, like channeling snippets of songs as messages. So different ways of getting psychic information and conveying them to people. So stay tuned for some really fantastic guests. And if you know anybody who might wish to be a guest on the show, have to submit their name, and we will be happy to consider it, seeing if we can consider it. Okay? Thank you very much. And good night from me. And good day from Era, I suppose.
Yes, David Parker was wondering where Ted is this show, and Ted is away. He was doing some group things somewhere else, and we were hoping he'd be able to broadcast from the field that he was in, but evidently there was no Wi-Fi. So we will be graced by Ted's presence next week. Thank you all again for being here and contributing and participating. It's been a blast. And we will see you all next week.
From the goddess within us to the goddess within you.
You bet.
Blessings be.
Okay. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.